friends ever since.
After weeks and weeks of bizarrely hot weather here in Glasgow, things have finally started to kind of go back to normal, in the sense that it's been pissing down with rain for the past few days. And luckily that gives me an excuse to stay in the house and experiment with some different things. And today I wanted to play about with some video feedback. And essentially that's just where you take a camera, point it at a screen, and then let it look back on itself. And just like audio feedback, it starts to generate these quite interesting patterns. Although obviously with audio feedback you get kind of horrible squealing noises, but with video feedback it can be a bit more interesting than that. So I thought I would share my process or my kind of setup for doing this, and I'll see what kind of results I get, and then anything I get which is useful or interesting I'm going to share on my Patreon so that you can go download it and use the videos as textures for your own projects or whatever that might be. But I thought it'd be interesting to show you the actual setup here. First of all, I have a VHS-C camera. That isn't anything particularly special, it just takes a VHS tape, but it's smaller, so VHS-C is like a wee mini tape. I have that, the composite signal coming out of this here, and it's running into an Edirol V4 mixer, a video mixer here. It's an analog video mixer. It's got 4 channels input and it's got 2 channels output. The output is just the same on each thing. What I've then got is I have got one of the outputs running into this Mezkalin video glitch processing thing. Mezkalin makes these really interesting circuit bent devices where he takes like video enhancers and video mixers and circuit bends them, and so I'll do a video on this separately, but that's what all these switches and buttons do. They do weird things to the signal. Finally, what I've got is I've got the output, or one of the outputs here, going back into the secondary input on the Edirol mixer, and that gives me a kind of internal feedback loop. So essentially one of the outputs goes back into itself, and then I can blend between the two and get some rather interesting kind of patterns. Now, finally, there's a few different ways you can digitize or record your output. You can either film the CRT screen and get the results straight from the TV, or you can take the output from this and then feed it into a wee box like this, although there's so many cables down there I don't want to show you the mess, but essentially it's just an analog to HDMI converter box, and then it goes straight in an HDMI capture card, and then I've got it capturing on my screen here. What's good about the Edirol is that it's got its own built-in video effects. So for example, it's got a colorize option here which lets you adjust or tweak the colors, and if I show you the laptop screen, you can see when I adjust the colorize knob on the Edirol, it starts to give you some really interesting kind of effects, even just with the basic setup there. You can of course do other things, like it's got a negative option so you can invert the signal, and at the moment it's just kind of blocky colours because of the way things are set up. But you can also do things like hit the multi option, and that gives you like multiple copies of the same thing on the screen. Now I've got it set up here so that when I blend between the two, this is the feedback line running into itself, and if you muck about with that you can start to get some really interesting patterns. It's a bit harder to capture with the GoPro because of the frame rate, but even there, look, you can start to see things can get quite bizarre quite fast. Now if you look at the CRT here, it'll be strange because what you'll see on the CRT will be quite different to what you see on the laptop screen, and that's just because of the way that the capture card grabs things versus what the CRT grabs. But if you wanted to, you could of course just record the CRT screen separately, but I can't be bothered doing that, so I'm just going to get the stuff that comes out the capture card. Now, one way to get kind of interesting results is to move or zoom in and out your VHS-C camera or whatever you're pointing at your screen, and so that's what I'm going to do here, and you can start to see the textures change on the screen here. It's obviously fairly unstable and unpredictable, as you may expect, but with some experimentation you can start to get some really interesting effects. See how the CRT looks mad, whereas on the actual HDMI capture card, things look a wee bit better. Yeah. And of course I can play about with the glitch box here and start to get even weirder things going on. Anyway, that's it for now, short and sweet. I'm just going to play through some of the visuals that I captured at this point, and you can see the kind of cool thing you can get. You don't actually need any kind of circuit bent video enhancer thing, and you don't even need like the video mixer to get cool results. You can just use a camera pointed at a screen and start to play about with it and move it about. And if you grab kind of wee bits of light that come into the frame and zoom in on them, you can get really cool stuff on its own. But I quite like using these bits and pieces because it makes it a wee bit more unpredictable and a wee bit more kind of wild, which is something I can get on board with. So I have a look. As I mentioned, the visuals that I've recorded or that I'm recording will be on the Patreon. You can go download them, use them for whatever you want. But if not, just enjoy some of what I've put up for now.